Hi, welcome to Less of Me Success Stories. I'm your host, Robyn Dobbins. My co-host, Natalie Shamp, is here with us today.
Hi, Robyn. We know what it's like to be helpless and hopeless. Your journey is not over. You can rewrite your story at any time, and we provide a platform for people to share their stories and how they reclaim their lives using dietary interventions.
Thanks. We're trying something new today. This is our first pre-recorded episode of Less of Me Success Stories. We have a goal of creating more content specifically to reduce the time in between audio podcast drops. We're excited to make these changes based on feedback from our fans. Our live audience is small today, as we have invited members of my small group coaching program. If you're interested in coaching or one of my small groups, please visit harbingerofhealthllc.com for more information. Links are in the show notes. As a reminder, we are not medical professionals offering medical advice. Please consult with your doctors before trying any dietary intervention. Now let me introduce our guest. Today's guest is a friend of mine who've had the pleasure of meeting at both COSI events. Our stories are very similar, so it was natural that we would gravitate towards each other. In fact, our stories are intertwined in the upcoming documentary, The Cholesterol Code. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Eric Rodgers. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoy being here and telling my story and being with lovely people, Robyn and Natalie.
Well, we're so glad that you joined us. You know, we've been going back and forth for quite some time to schedule. So I don't know when I first asked you, but I'm certainly glad to have you here with us today. So what we do here is we just turn it over to you and please just share your story.
All right. Yeah, I like the less of me. That's an interesting place to start because people look at me now, and even as I've been an adult, and say, you were never overweight. Well, the story starts, and by second grade, I knew I was a little different because I was overweight. I mean, I guess you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that. And that, that went not terribly overweight, but that went on through till middle school. And then middle school, that's when you start to get teased a little bit, and maybe more than a little. But I had a very strong core of friends by the time I got to high school that really got me through high school. And it wasn't, my high school wasn't that out of the ordinary, I would say, my experience in high school. I love this story, so I have to tell it. It was, I believe, it was 8th grade, going through lunch in the cafeteria, and I was overweight, and so I pick up a honey bun, and then I pick up another honey bun, and then I get chocolate milk, and then I just go and sit down. And it's so weird because I remember at the time, I'm like, wow, they're calling me fat, and what is that there? So, but I didn't figure out any way to lose weight until puberty hit, and that helped. Guys probably, I don't know more, but it just grew taller, and then now we're going to college, and I'm still at a weight I don't want to be at. And I say, you know what? I believe people eat 3 times a day. That's the deal. That's what 3 meals a day. I was eating all day, and including the 3 meals, and just all day. And so randomly, I didn't change. Well, not randomly. I said, I want to lose some weight before I go to college. And I was able to lose a fair amount of weight, eating only 3 times a day, no snacks, no stopping at McDonald's for a Big Mac, fries, and Coke on the way home to dinner. And so that helped. Now to back up to my childhood, I always had some anxiety, just low level. At times more than low level throughout childhood. There was even bouts of insomnia in probably 8th grade. And that was weird because I was like, am I the only one that can't sleep? And again, just made it through that. So now you're at UNC, Chapel Hill, go Tar Heels, going to the game here in a little bit. And I do pretty well. You know, I have a good core group of friends, although now metabolic syndrome starting to come in, although I may have even had it in grade school or high school. And now I'm starting running because I've learned that can manage my weight a little bit. And I do okay. You know, a typical college experience for most fraternity brothers. And, you know, there was alcohol, and then it was probably some was used for anxiety, looking backwards now, but still everything's pretty under control. I am on blood pressure medicine by the time I get to optometry school. Still probably would qualify for metabolic syndrome, so now I go to optometry school. And I can obsess on things, and so yeah, I obsessed on optometry school, and that was very good for me, and I did very well there, and I kept going with the running. Okay, now start up a practice, get married, and have a child. That was all very briefly described. But there's stress in that, and starting up the practice, major stress. And by the time I was 40, I would say, that's when I was going to my family doctor, and I was having trouble sleeping again. I'd had several bouts of trouble sleeping, and I would get sleeping pills, and then I would get through it. And so I remember sitting there with him and he said, "Do you think there could be a mood issue involved?" And I just said no. And he said, "Well, why don't you see this other doctor?" And yeah, he put me on Paxil, and that made me dramatically worse. It was really, I mean, I study myself, so I was like, wow, this is fascinating, because I got a lot worse on the first medicine. Now I go to the psychiatrist again, about 40, and he switches me to Lexapro, and that does better, and I start doing better talking to someone. And so, you know, basically 12 years of seeing a psychiatrist and different medicines. There would be episodes of severe depression mixed in with, you know, doing pretty well, getting along, not optimal. I didn't find out optimal till 56. So just getting along, staying on the medicine, ups and downs, but each down got dramatically worse. And by the time I was starting to read about this, I read, oh, that's what happens. Your depressive episodes will be worse. Your next one's worse than the last one. And that, no, you're nodding. I don't like that. So the second one was pretty bad, and the third one was 2015, and yeah, that was most, you know, 3/4 of the year. The thought of suicide was in my head, you know, a lot. And it was remarkable. I'd go to Carolina games. I remember sitting in a Carolina game thinking, all these people screaming, am I the only one in here that feels this way? I mean, I'm sitting in here. Am I really the only? I mean, all these people don't look like they feel like me. It was really kind of crazy. And and I don't know if each episode lasts longer. That one way lasted longer. So there we are going through 2015, and now we're coming up on December, when things probably get worse for a lot of people anyway. And really interesting. I've talked to Dr. Palmer about it. I lost appetite, and I was overweight. About 200 pounds, and which is overweight for me, and I lost appetite. So I really just stopped eating as much, and I was almost having to force myself to eat. And so now we're going towards December, get through Christmas, and now it's January, and I've lost some weight just because I really didn't want to eat. Every food tasted the same. Again, Dr. Palmer said, yeah, these are things that can happen. And I thought I was the only one. So I'm losing weight, and then just, it's a light bulb moment. I'm walking the dog in the snow, and I just said, wow, I don't want to die right now. What's going on? This is weird. this is interesting. Again, I'm a student of myself. My wife would say too much. So I literally took a picture, I still got it on my phone, took a picture of that moment, what I was seeing, dog on the leash in the snow. And then I came back in here in this room I'm in now and wrote on the calendar. I said, on this day, I felt halfway decent. So that's 2016. And then next thing I thought, well, let's go, I've lost some weight, still overweight, but I've lost some weight. If I'm getting a little better, let's just at least don't put the weight back on. So now I go in the bookstore, Barnes and Noble, walk right in there, got enough energy to walk in a store and shop, which I didn't for a long time. First book I find, Michael Greger, How Not to Die. Exactly. I know. So I was vegan for 6 months and I got better, still on medicine. At that point, I was just on Effexor, 225 milligrams. It's pretty high dose. But I was getting a little better. Wow. So now I'm thinking through this. I don't know when in 2016 I started that, but by the end of 2016, I was finding low carb on Twitter. I don't know who my first interaction was with, but then I said, well, I'd like to eat some of that stuff, so let's go that way. And so I threw out Dr. Greger. Never looked back. Although vegetarian can work, even vegan can work if you do it the right way, but you have to know what you're doing, and you don't learn from Dr. Greger. So there we go. And now we're coming into 2017, still on Effexor, doing a lot better. Definitely doing better. Not nearly optimal yet. Again, you don't know optimal for a long time. I don't know what other people's journeys are, but I was still on medicine too. So here we're coming to 2017. I'm back to Barnes and Noble. And I go through the magazines. I'd always look at Psychology Today, and there I'm looking, and Dr. Eid going to a conference in DC in September of 17, and she said it's about nutrition and mental health. I'm an optometrist. I've been to optometry meetings every year, have to. Never been to any medical conference outside of optometry till then. And I was feeling good enough to say, I'm going to sign up and go and see if she'll talk to me. And I was shy. I wouldn't have had be outgoing enough to have done that for many years. But I booked my room, went up there, and yeah, it's ridiculous what happened. Of course, y'all know her. She was very kind to me and sat with me during lectures and talked during lunch. And then there was we were not together the whole conference, but then there was this other meeting. I said, oh, I got to go to that one. And it was Dr. Palmer talking, his first public talk, I later learned, on keto for severe mental illness. And he described, I sat there, me and Dr. Eid sat there, watched him describe 2 patient stories. And that's really why I'm here now, because, I was reading PubMed, I was reading Psychology Today, I was reading books, but the personal stories, that cemented it for me, because he said this person stopped hearing voices because they changed their diet. And it still sounds crazy. I mean, but I obviously know it's happening over and over again now. But at the time, I drove back from there like, wow, that's really wild, but I'm just going all in. So that was 2017. And so then I had to taper off Effexor, and that's one of the harder ones I now learn. And I did it on my own. The doctor wasn't helping me anymore, really, at this point. So, and I just, that pill cutter, I think I finally threw it away, because it's traumatic to look at, honestly. Just keep cutting them down. And I'd read about people with the capsules. They'll open them up and they'll pull out one little bead at a time. Just crazy stuff out there. But I was reading on how to taper and how not to get the brain zaps or terrible side effects, withdrawal. And I got lucky. I mean, that's what everybody that knows this process said. I just got lucky. I did it over probably 6 months. And then by the time I was off all medicine, it was amazing. During the taper, I did have hypomania. And that was interesting, because I'm pretty sure I just had major depression. I actually kind of envy people, although they would say I'm crazy, to want the upside of bipolar. I mean, give me an upside at least. I mean, I don't know, why am I have to be down for 5 years or something? You know, I'd like a little cycle up every now and then. And so I'd actually had that during the taper, and I wasn't sleeping enough. And I think by then I was communicating with some experts that, you know, helped me a little bit. And once I finally got off the all the medicine and was on keto, there you go. That was 2017. It's really crazy because, as you all both know, you're a different person, and it's a little startling because you know, you've never lived your life this way. And so you really, there is that whole next piece of it. You got to figure out, well, how do I live like this? like a happy, you know, outgoing person. People are going to say, who are you? Where'd Eric go? So, yeah. And so that was 2017. I've stayed keto, you know, since then. No medicine for mood since then. I'll just don't need it anymore. I know I'll never need it. It's a strange certainty, and I don't know if Robyn and other people feel this, but I just know if I stay on the diet, I'm good. It's really, now life events are going to happen, and you will be depressed, but there's normal depression. Then there's the depression where I would go into the psychiatrist and say, my business is doing well, my son's doing well, my wife's doing well, or got a brand new house, everything's great, and I still want to die. So, and he was about as quiet as y'all are right now. Didn't have an answer for that. And you know, I think now we have an option for people, and they need to know it's out there. The most frustrating thing is doctors just aren't interested, even after the fact. I don't get it. Yeah, I was able to have a meal at a table with Jambazuki, and I said, how many doctors, you know, if his former doctors are, okay, there was 27 doctors, 40 medicines. How many of those doctors are really fascinated by what you're doing? I mean, all this research with metabolic mind, that was the answer. I can't, no, my brain doesn't allow that my brain bounces that back out. I can't believe that. I mean, on a personal level, 1 or 2 doctors that I knew that are now retired, okay, they're like, oh, I'm glad you're better. See ya. That's so frustrating. And so that's why Robyn's doing what she's doing, Natalie's doing, and I'm doing, because it is personal stories that hooked me. And I heard recently Dr. Eid say that's how humans learn. You know, reading a PubMed paper on your computer, you know, might be interesting, but it's not going to sink in until you hear someone's life story. And we'll go to the movie a little bit. So now I'm learning all about health. So I say, well, what the heck? I'll have that CAC test because it only costs $200. I ordered it myself. Back then you could do that. And unfortunately, I said, oh, guess what? You have some heart disease, runs in my family. And of course, my cholesterol was high because by then I'm lean mass hyperresponder. And I just let it ride for several years. And then I start seeing, I guess it's reverse patient confidentiality, but I start seeing Dr. Tro, and he said, you know what, let's just see what happens. Let's see if you can get that down, because you do have existing heart disease. And we don't know. We think this is safe even with that, but we don't know. So I was trying statin, and I was on a statin for about a year, and no side effects. Cholesterol came down from like 190 to 160. Big deal. But I wasn't having side effects. And then I was having side effects, and it was calves. And it was really wild because it just crept up so gradually. I would be laying in bed. I'm like, well, I just got to learn how to sleep while there's pain. That's my next job. It was really fascinating that I let it get that far. And finally I said, I'm stopping. So I stopped the statin. And looking back, and even during the end of taking it, I realized, yeah, my mood was starting to go down. little bit. And I was, I would double check things. I'd like get in the car to go to work. Oh, did I turn the stove off? Okay, let's go. I can then come back. And then that's not normal. So, okay, stop that. Let the cholesterol ride again. And then I learned, and it's fairly new knowledge, that ezetimibe or Zetia is very effective in lean mass hyperresponders if they want to lower their cholesterol. And the mechanism of it is so that it's not a whole body assault that statins are. And it's way more localized in your stomach and gut, and so you're not likely to have all the side effects, cognitive, muscular. And so, yeah, I've been taking it for maybe a year and a half. And yeah, it drops my LDL from 196 to 86. And I now here I am thinking that's too low because I'm powered by fat. And, but my cardiologist is somewhat happy, still disinterested. I said, I'm going to be in this film, and I just, oh yeah, here's Dr. Reed's book. My story's in there. Oh, is that for me? That blows my mind. So yeah, that's pretty much where I am. I've had 2 more heart scans since the first one. There is progression. It's very hard to stop CAC progression. If you limit it to 15% or less a year, your risk is actually, based on one study, is similar to someone of your age. You're back to normal risk. Yeah, if I can get in Dave's next study, I'll sign up. So I'll throw that in there.
I feel the same way. I want to get into Dave's study as well. I didn't make it the first cut, but I think he's recruiting 200 people this time. Oh. So fingers crossed that I get to contribute.
That'd be good, because and if you don't mind me, I know I believe your scan was good.
Yes, mine was my C, and I've only had the CAC, so it was 0. But they're doing the
CTA. I've had that also, and that's it's complicated. But now if you had a 0 CAC, you know what that means. So if I'd have had that, I would no chance I would be lowering my cholesterol. But here I'm doing it. So far, so good.
Well, right, and that's where we go to this place where it's an individual decision. We see all of this kind of emerging science out there, but you still are you, and you still have to take care of you, and you have to figure out what's going to work best for you. So yeah, you had a number that's telling you that you have a greater risk. What can I do about it? And you're having an open dialogue with your doctors about what you're doing with your diet and getting some extra support. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's a really important story to tell, because I think within our community, we get very anti-medication, but medications do exist for a reason, and they do have purpose, and some people still need to take them, and that's okay.
Including psychiatric.
Exactly. Very much still including. It's eating a low-carb ketogenic diet can be an incredible support, and it might just be what you need to make your medication work more effectively.
Exactly correct. Yeah, but also when you start a medicine, psychiatric, I really wish they would say, we're going to do this, and now we're going to hammer on your lifestyle to look, maybe we can on the other side get off the medicine. Those 2 parts don't happen. I mean, they do. I mean, in counseling, they'll tell you strategies, but people that are put on antidepressants stay on them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you know, that's my story as well. So,
how long?
I thought that's what I thought when they started prescribing medicine, that was going to be my miracle cure, and was also going to be my lifelong fate. And that was just how it worked. I wasn't counseled in any other way. That's just how it works. You're going to have them forever. And this is how you're going to feel. And I knew I didn't feel well. I knew I still I still don't feel better, but this is, at least I exist, and at least I'm not trying to kill myself. And at least I'm not having all these suicidal thoughts. At least that's gone. Yeah. But it's still not great. It still doesn't feel good.
And there during those 3 downshoots, I had those thoughts on medicine for sure. Medicine didn't touch those thoughts for me.
Yeah. Well, I don't think the medicines were touching it for me because I was just so sedated. I was asleep.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I've heard experts say this is, in some cases, that is the treatment. That is, we have to get you to that level. And there you go. You're a success.
And the follow-ups aren't necessarily asking those questions either. You know, they certainly aren't asking you how you feel about the medication. If you think it's working, that it's, and for me anyway, I was like constantly being put on something and then taken off of something else. So there was never like a firm time that
Oh,
I
really?
was, this is the right
It's working
combination.
now. Interesting. Now, well, how long was your period? I mean, what are we talking about?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I started taking medication in 2000, maybe 12. Nice cup. And see,
Actually,
mine's right here.
okay.
And I started my NSNG diet in
Well,
2017 and
5 years, not bad. Wow.
off of all meds by
Here I am
2019.
downplaying what you went through. 5 years, not bad.
No, well, because I suffered silently for
Mm,
10, 15 years before that.
yeah, you were living the tightrope. Somebody I heard recently said you're just walking on a tightrope or on the balance beam, and that's how you're getting through life. It's a great.
And it's exhausting.
Oh, of course it is. Of course
Yeah.
it is.
So
I got, yeah, and I got, and my phone tracks my steps, and after I got better, I looked back, and I didn't mention in my whole story. I'm a marathon runner, by the way. Robyn probably knows this. Age 40, I said, hey, I'm gonna start running marathons. So I run from 40 to 58, but at 56, I'm in front of the doctor. This is a key part of my story I didn't say. I'm sitting in front of the doctor, and she says, I'm still depressed on effects or on high blood pressure medicine, maybe sleeping medicine every now and then. She says, you're pre-diabetic. You need to exercise more and eat less fat. Literal.
I'm running marathons. What else do you want me to do?
She hadn't done a history. She probably wouldn't have thrown in the exercise if she had heard the history. But actually, that was pivotal for me. That was in 2016. That was when I was starting to get better, and I actually wanted to go to a doctor to see what was going on with my body. And so that was very helpful because I said, wow, okay, she's completely wrong over on the exercise. Maybe she's wrong on, maybe they don't know what they're doing.
Well, yeah, I've heard you tell that story before, and it's amazing to me that you were in tune enough to be like, something's not adding up here.
Yeah, no,
I wasn't exercising, so getting the conversation of, hey, your cholesterol levels are going up, and this is what you do to fix it, and it's a pill, and eat less, move more. I was like, okay, that sounds right. But luckily I knew enough at the time. But I think if it was 6 months earlier, I wouldn't have known what to do. I see Natalie raising her hand. Let me let Natalie in. Come on in, Natalie.
I have a question for maybe both of you, if that's okay. Eric, you spent 12 years on medication. During that time, and then Robyn, 5 years on medication. During that time, were you seeing a medical doctor for the prescription, or were you both seeing a mental health professional? I just asked that question because I know so many people that are giving these medications, but there's no mental health follow-up, if you will. So I'm curious about that.
Yeah, no, I was seeing a psychiatrist. I had an excellent primary care doctor, and he saw what needed to happen. And I went to an excellent psychiatrist. I feel like he just didn't have all the tools he needed to fix me.
So I initially went to my general practitioner, and he gave me my first dose of an antipsychotic. And then I started seeing psychiatrists. I didn't live far from you, Eric. I lived in Florence, South Carolina at the time.
Okay.
And there just wasn't a lot of psychiatrists in the area, and the offices were closing down. I think they were moving to the bigger cities. So eventually, after I think I had 4 different ones, and this is also why I was never constantly on a medication. I was always going on one and going off another, like for a while.
That's better than
Yeah. Eventually, there was just no one left that I could get to easily. It was quite a trip to get to a psychiatrist's office. It would require Matt having to take a day off of work, and it was just, so I ended up just transferring everything that my last psychiatrist was prescribing back to that same general practitioner, and I stayed on those medications at those doses for like probably 2 full years of that. And that's when I was losing weight as well. So there was never any adjustment for 50-pound weight loss. I was still on this amount. So yeah, there's a real issue with basically psychiatry deserts. I could get to a counselor, but I couldn't get to a prescriber. And so my medications just didn't change from there.
Yeah, I wonder maybe online is going to help with that. I wouldn't want to see a mental health professional on the screen, but if that's my only option, I would want that.
It's a better option than nothing. It's a better option than you know. And that's in that mindset. You're very, or at least I was very conscious of the burden I felt I was placing on my family. So not only are medications expensive, and that's taken away from the family fund and all that, but having my husband have to, the breadwinner have to take a day off of work just so I could go see, have like a 45-minute appointment that's filling out a survey and then having a face-to-face for like 5 minutes, and then, oh, we're going to adjust this and this, and then you're going. I mean,
yeah, that's what was medication follow-ups? That's what you had.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's all you had. I paid out of pocket a lot of money to have an hour with a psychiatrist, and so like, part of that was, and I'm sure it helped me. I'm discounting all this, but I'm sure that was, he was a smart man. He just didn't have the tools.
Right. And I find it interesting in your story that you found Dr. Eid and Dr. Palmer so quickly. So I changed my diet in 2017. So it's
Same time.
Just right behind you.
Wow.
And I don't know, it may have been 2 years that I started hearing, but they talk about those silos all the time. They talk about how everybody was practicing on their own. And I feel the same way. Like I was figuring it out. I was hearing what they were putting out there, but it wasn't loud yet. It wasn't organized. You talked about Jan Pazuki. Like, thank goodness she has been able to get it all in one place so that more people can access it. Like I find it, I don't know about you, but I find it completely fascinating now that people are choosing the ketogenic diet because of their mental health symptoms. Because that's not like that just didn't even exist. I just thought pills were going to be the way to go. So, it's amazing to me that you were in it, like really from the jump.
Yeah,
like when people lucky. Outside of those silos started.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that one moment in time. I walk in the bookstore and open Psychology, and if I hadn't have done that, who knows where I'd be? Because I definitely don't know that I would have stayed on the diet. Just got lucky. So, and that's why people shouldn't have to get lucky, and that's why stuff Robyn and Natalie, what you're doing is going to help so many people. Because as many people saying this as we can, because it's just not out there yet.
If I could just ask another question. I know that we are not here promoting the film, but I would like to know how both of you became guests. How did Dave Feldman find you? Did you find him? How did this all transpire where you both ended up in his documentary?
Well, I want to hear Robyn's story first, because I know mine.
This has now become the Robyn and Eric shows.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not trying to take away from you, Eric. I didn't know this about you, but I also was a patient of Dr. Tro's at one time. And I I worked with him. While we were together, he did, he did he takes vials and vials of blood. I didn't know that I had that much blood in me. And so of course it was cholesterol tests. So it's the particle tests and all this stuff. And my LDLs were through the roof. And so, but we did do similarly. I went, and that's when he is who ordered my CAC. It was 0. We had the genetic test. I don't have FH. So there were options on the table other than the statins. And that's when he and I did the sweet potato experiment, where the theory being that if you add if you've gone low carb and your levels shoot up, then if you start adding carbs back in, your cholesterol levels will go down. So I started eating a sweet potato every day. What we didn't account for was that it triggered a depression. So while I was seeing Dr. Tro is the only time that I ever had a relapse of symptoms to that extent, just dropping everything that I ever enjoyed. So flash forward to last two Octobers ago, I guess, or September's ago. I'm sorry. I actually had met Dave at Low Carb Denver, but it was very brief. So this is where I find this is where this part happens. So I'm taking my son to college, and he was going to the University of Minnesota at the time, and we literally just dropped him off. We're in the hotel, and my phone rings, and it's Dr. Tro. And now I haven't seen him as a patient for a couple years, but and he's like, "Hey, I've got this phone call from this producer, and they're looking for someone for the film that has is a lean mass hyperresponder and has a mental health condition that they manage through their diet, and your name popped in my head." And I was like, whoa,
yeah, you made an impression.
Absolutely floored. And then he told me who Jen was. And I immediately knew about Fat Fiction when he told me about her. So I was like, yeah, they're totally legit. I love Fat Fiction. It's a great film. And the next day I was on the phone with Jen, and it was settled. We were planning dates and everything. So now, Eric, I'm curious to know how you got involved, because I didn't know until we went to COSI last year that they were adding other people to the story. So, and I was real excited to hear that you were one of the people. So go ahead and tell your part.
Yeah, so that goes all the way back to 2017. I wanted to learn how to search Twitter better, or X, but once I found out I had heart disease in 2017, I cured mental illness. I mean, that's the great thing about this. You don't need to get a brain scan to know you're better. It's so fantastic. You're like, I am better. And anyway. So my research, my interest shifted right to heart disease, and there I am, 2017 on Twitter. That's where you learn things. And yeah, it's so funny to think back. Me and Tro were arguing LDL way back then. I mean, he was so pro lowering, and if I could ever find some of those arguments we had. But then, of course, I'm in it enough. I swear I met Dave on Twitter, and then first in person in 2019 at a conference, and we've seen each other once a year at conferences. And then he has a Monday morning meeting, if you're Patreon or whatever, and you can have a Zoom call. And I've known him that way. So yeah, we're pretty close. So there I am sitting there seeing patients, and I look at my phone, and I got a text from Dave. And he said, and I don't know if it was Jen or Jan. They both start with the J, obviously. And so somebody, I think it was Jan, said, she knows your story, and because I take the medicine, I think is a big reason I'm in there. Would you be in it? And so there you go. I'm in it. But I've followed Dave since. I mean, it was so interesting to watch him back in 2017 doing all these tests on himself. I just got fascinated with him. And, great guy, obviously. Dropped his life, his career, to move this forward for a decade at this point.
Yeah, and we're not really able to talk too much about the film. If you've listened to any of the interviews he's had since the film at COSI, there's information that's not public yet that we all know.
Absolutely.
But I did find that having your story in there was really important, because it touched on that piece that you can still make the decision to use the medication. We're not going to put a film out here that says, hey, guess what? We've got this cure-all and it's diet. That's not what this film is about.
Yeah, it's not there. Yeah, I still, like I said earlier, I don't know that this is helping me, but it's not harming me that I can tell. And so there you go. And yeah, it's not known. There is no study of someone, a lean mass hyperresponder with coronary artery disease on keto for 8 years. Yeah, I'm my own study.
And that's the whole thing, right? Like, all of us that are fitting in this phenotype, we all live in no man's land, and we all have to make this choice. And for me, because I have the 0 and I don't have the FH, like all of these things. Okay, so I can feel confident in my decision and hope that the science backs me up when it all comes out. Yeah. For you have a pre-existing condition, and it's important to manage that in the way that we know how. And you're still even doing it in kind of an alternate way, because you're not using a specific the typical statin.
And there's 0 chance I would take Repatha. Like I say, 86 seems low to me. I guess when I'm used to my LDL being 190. So anyway.
What is it that you take? Zetia? So can you explain it? Zetia a little more?
Zetia. It's a PIK1 inhibitor, I believe. I'm probably getting that wrong, but it blocks cholesterol you eat from being absorbed into your body. And so by the time that cholesterol normally goes right to your liver, because your liver needs a lot of cholesterol. And since I'm taking a medicine that stops the cholesterol from coming into my liver says, oh, I'm going to grab everything that's out there. So it pulls it out of the bloodstream because it needs more cholesterol. And so as opposed to a statin, which stops the production of cholesterol almost everywhere in your body, muscles and maybe brain and everywhere. And so doing the same effect now, you've made less. And so the liver is going to say, I got to have, I'm the cholesterol pig here. I'm going to grab more out. And so it pulls more out of the bloodstream. So the way they lower it is the same on that end, but on the front end, as best I know, Zetia just stops cholesterol absorption. And there's, so does it stop anything else? So does it stop other fatty acids, which I need because I'm powered by fat? Is it stopping, fat soluble vitamins? What I've read is that it's not doing that. So. And well, I want to say, if anybody's really interested in all this and hearing this, people will often say, oh, you must be a hyper absorber. And I'm not. I did the test. I'm not. This is most people, it's believed, if they're a lean mass hyperresponder, and I don't want you, Robyn, to start taking it now. Most people that are lean mass hyperresponders are going to have a dramatic reaction to this medicine versus a statin. Actually, I think Freud just wrote a paper on it, actually, just published it.
Oh, well, that'll be interesting to know more. No, I'm not planning on starting any.
Oh yeah.
I still have Hashimoto's, so I still have to manage all of that. So that's what I think about. That's the only thing I think about.
Has that gotten better? Has that gotten better?
No, I'm like the only person I know that hasn't had any change whatsoever. But again, I have two things. I have no idea how long I had it before, because it was, I think, overshadowed by the bipolar. So there's that. And then both of my parents had their thyroid removed. So both of them. So I think I'm dealing with the cards that I have, and that's just how that works, and it's okay.
I heard that you're too young for this, but I heard a doctor giving a lecture one time talking about a patient my age maybe, and they said they have competing medical conditions.
Yeah.
I don't like the phrase.
Maybe that's what's going on. I don't know, but I manage it. I don't have any symptoms. It's just, I
Yeah.
just know that it's there.
Yeah,
But I
well,
was going to ask you if, do you test your ketones? And if you do, did you notice any change when you started taking the Zetia in how your
good
ketones
question. Now,
responded?
now I'm going to do a trial off it again. Great question. And now I will know the answer in about 3 months.
Okay, you can get back to me.
I didn't test ketone, back when I was doing this in 17, it seemed more expensive. And so I just almost never tested ketones. And then I would do the breath thing. There were several breath meters, and I'm always high on those. And so I'm like, well, yeah, I'm just not going to bother. But here lately, I've been doing more ketone tests, and I'm low. But I think I was low before Zetia though. But it'd be interesting to stop it and see where it goes. I mornings I'm about 0.5 to 0.8. Afternoon before dinner it's like 1.5, maybe 1.0. That's just where I'm at.
And you feel good.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
So
But
that's a good thing.
and you don't want to, I like what Dr. Westman says, if you're feeling good and your blood pressure's good, and what are you doing over there poking your finger all day? And that's pretty good. Well, you heard Amy's talk at COSI. She was talking to me, but everybody else was there.
I think a lot of the talks feel like that. Like, oh, they're talking directly to me. That's what makes those really interesting.
To explain that, Amy was saying, Amy Berger, great person to learn from. She was saying, yeah, if you're doing well and your average markers are good, good, don't obsess on this stuff so much.
Keto without the crazy, that's her thing. And I love it too. I love listening to her talks, and I'm the same way. I have never tested for ketones. I've never done any of the tests for them. However, like you, I'm curious now, so I might do it. I don't know, but so I've been in a couple of studies, and that always comes up, and I have to explain, well, it wasn't a thing.
Yeah, true.
But just first of all, I didn't know that I was doing this and that it was going to heal my mental health. And secondly, I just didn't think I needed to test it. It was expensive at the time. It just wasn't something that was part of what I did. So, but that makes me unique, but it does leave out a big hole in a study.
Yeah, exactly. And so the really interesting question that I'll never know, when I was getting better with keto, were my ketones higher? And was that required? I'll never know. Now I know 0.5 to 1, I'm fine. And
right. And that's a good point.
Higher back there.
Yeah, that's a good point, because a lot of people need those higher numbers and have to work harder to get those higher numbers. But yeah.
Of course, I also think the more severe the disease, the higher the numbers have to be. But only to like 3.0, it seems like. You go over that, then it's kind of iffy.
Yeah, you're leaning into starvation territory.
Well, how's your sleep then?
Since I've been off of medication, absolutely wonderful. I and that was a part of my goals when I titrated off the medication, is that I needed to learn how to sleep. So I have a pretty nice sleep routine. I almost always go to bed at the same time. I try to wake up at the same time, those kinds of things. I almost never have problems sleeping anymore.
Because I do find if I do go like 0 carbs, I feel like I might undersleep more often, but it's probably because I'm not eating enough fat. Amber and Shavana told me that for 5 years.
That is a great topic that I'm working on with my small group, is that you can overeat protein and you can have symptoms from doing that. And
but then anyway, so
so that,
well, I'll put a plug in for keto bricks. I've been eating them lately. I'm out of them right at the moment. They're an easy way to get fat, and I'm using more butter, cream. I really haven't. I could use heavy cream. What do you do for fat source?
I eat a lot of butter.
That's good.
Like so much butter.
I like that answer.
And I cook everything in tallow or bacon fat, so olive oil. yeah, most of it's butter because I really try to be dairy free. Last night's dinner excluded. That was I guess special, but yeah, I just like if I'm eating a steak, it has butter on top. If I'm eating a bowl of ground beef, it's got butter mixed in. If I'm eating eggs, there's butter on it.
I have cheeseburgers with butter now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll tell this story. I watched Finney's lectures obsessively, and one time he said, you're fat adapted when you open up the fridge and look and want to eat the butter. And when he said that, I was like, that's just nonsense. But yeah, I get it now.
Yeah, totally.
I know you get it.
Yeah. I know my dad has this, or maybe it was my mom no, it's my dad. My dad's sister would go into the refrigerator and just bite the butter, and he thought that was the most disgusting thing, and it was horrible. Well, now he's eating NSNG, and he sees the light.
Right. Yeah, I remember being at a steakhouse with my family one time, and they didn't want the fat, and I said, "Hey, you just cut it off and give it to me." Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing, but some instinct said that was good for me.
You know what? And I think that's a valid point. At some point when you start eating this way, it's like the instinct does take over. You do know. Yeah. And then you don't have to test. We get so bogged down, and that's basically Amy's talk, is that we get so bogged down with, I need to know what my numbers are. I need to track every little thing. And it doesn't have to be that complicated. Like at times, yeah, you want to focus and get it right.
Yearly check-ins, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, not as much as like Dave was doing there for a while.
Taking a picture of everything.
Well, and taking his bloods. You might not have followed him. He was taking.
Oh yeah. Oh.
But
I have a quick question.
Sure.
You mentioned briefly, Eric, about your gut bacteria during your story, knowing that, medicines and whatnot affect our gut bacteria. Gut bacteria affects our brain, blah, 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 right? So what do you do to manage gut bacteria? Do you do anything special in your diet, or are you just allowing your diet to correct your gut bacteria?
I feel like, I just allow it to correct. I do like yogurt, and so full fat yogurt is probably helping me. I'm not eating it for that reason. I eat it because I like it, and I put in health protein powder, or their fat protein powder, and that's just a quick thing. Put a scoop of that in, stir it up, and that can be just a quick meal. Do that a lot, so I think that helps my. But I think unless you're coming into this with a GI problem, now all bets are off. Yeah, all bets are off. And look at Nick Norwitz. I mean, he came in with the ultimate GI problem, and he had to get extremely restrictive on his diet. So I think that, and if Natalie, if that's where you are, that's difficult. I think my stomach bacteria was, not in a way that just going to an animal-based keto was all I had to do, and it straightened things out. So tell me about yours, Natalie. What is I heard you were looking like.
That was something that I've struggled with my whole life, is GI issues. I remember specifically when I was 4 years old having a potty problem.
Wow.
And so I, of course, since I have switched over to almost full carnivore, I do not have a lot of problems, but I still think I see a couple of things where I'm like, I think I can do better in my gut. So I'm always searching for, what do we think that is?
Yeah, well, I feel like I get dehydrated frequently, and that's the problem with low carb keto.
That's a good point.
And that affects your bathroom. We'll just leave it there.
Yeah, we don't have to do poopy talk.
And salt.
It's funny. I love that you said that, Eric, because Natalie and I just had a conversation about her being dehydrated. So thanks. Yay!
I can't believe I don't know the mechanism behind that, but it is a diuretic. The ketosis makes you go to the bathroom, so you got to drink water.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What about salt? I'm curious where y'all are on salt. Are you like, I'm like Dave, I have to eat salt.
I salt this is a glass of water with salt in it.
There you go.
I salt all day long.
This is coffee with salt.
Yeah,
Salt water.
and I back to Finney. I remember a lecture. He said 5 grams of sodium per day, and you need to add about 3 of that. So that's 6 grams of salt. That's a lot. 6 salt tablets. And,
oh my gosh!
And I know people that take 9, and I'm one that takes between 6 and 9. So
I have an issue with that though. Salt makes my nose. Salt dries my nose out, like to where I get cracks in my nose. So if I take too much salt, it's like it dries out my skin maybe, and I literally can't drink enough water to make that not happen. So I have to find that balance. I'm looking for that balance.
It's so complicated. Amber talks a lot about if you're true carnivore, you may require less salt than someone like me who's just 20 to 50 grams of carbs a day. That keto, that person may need a lot more salt than someone that's just carnivore. Well, how close to carnivore are you, Robyn?
Mostly I like eat avocado, or sometimes I'll make a tomato sauce and put that on there, but it's mostly meat. Yeah. Well,
can I ask one more question?
Yeah. Go ahead.
This is more about your eyesight, since you are in that field. Have you noticed any changes in your eyes as far as, your exams on yourself and whatnot?
Well, I'd say dry eyes is a really big problem out there. And I think this helps with dry eyes because some of the dry eyes seemingly comes from processed food and maybe the vegetable oils, and being in an inflamed state makes you produce less and worse tears. So, and even as an eye doctor, I underestimate the importance of dry eyes to blurry vision. I had LASIK, and that was like, okay, and that creates dry eye for about 2 or 3 weeks. And I was like, oh, wow, these people are serious when they say dry eye blurs their vision. So the other thing is, being 65, I've got a few drusen, which are age spots that, I used to call them age spots, call them drusen now that I have them. But it's it's the earliest form of macular degeneration, which is just an aging thing. So yeah, next time we talk, I'll have taken I hadn't taken a picture in 5 years, so maybe they disappeared.
Yeah, that's funny that you say the dry eyes. Another problem I've always had, again, since I was a child, I would always have super gooey, eyes. And what I later found, probably just a few years ago, because I've only had glasses a few years, they said, you have chronic dry eyes. You have got to take, whatever this.
Yeah, it's fish oil helps. If you're eating seafood.
Well, since I've started this way of eating, I have 0 dry eyes.
Nice to hear. Hey, just other antidote. I had a age spot on the back of this hand, and it definitely just faded away. And I showed it to Dr. Troll on Twitter one time, and he explained it. So yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, have y'all noticed age spots fading?
Moles are just like this disappeared, little red spots. Yeah, they're just gone. Like, doesn't make any sense. They just disappeared.
Tro could explain it.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely not as smart as Dr. Troll. He's just a wealth of knowledge. I'm so glad, Natalie, that you opened up ophthalmology questions, because I was going to ask you about that. So I've heard people say that their vision has changed, that their vision has gotten better. That is not me. Every year I need to change my prescription, but have you ever seen that? I mean, I don't know. Do you use this in your practice so that you could see that?
I see a lot of diabetics, and so I'll mention this to them, but I've never used it for a vision specific reason. But how it could help people's vision, if your blood sugar is running high, the lens in your eye will swell and cause you to need stronger glasses. That's not exactly how it works, but it's close enough. And so then when you get your blood sugar back down, I've definitely had people come in, and I knew when I was doing the exam, I'm like, okay, I bet your blood sugar's up. You're going to have to come back if you get your blood sugar down, and you'll need different glasses. So absolutely. You have a diabetic, the A1C is 11, and you give them glasses, and they come back at 7, they're going to need different glasses.
That is really interesting. Yeah. Now we've opened up a whole other hour of talk, which
Yeah.
I want to dive into. So we're going to have you back
I
to
love
have
that.
specific ophthalmology talk, but I don't want to go without asking this one because it irks me. I like to get, when I'm outside, my glasses are off. I take them off. And this is very important to me because the sunshine, I know it needs to hit my actual eyes for, processes to filter down. But I always say I do not want any filters on my lenses.
Yeah.
And they always come with filters on them. It's like how it works. So do they even make it, like, can you get glasses that are made out of glass?
No,
or is
even
it just...
any plastic lens is going to block some light from getting to, some rays from getting to your eyes. So a clear lens with no coating is still going to block some of the rays from the sun that you want to get in your eyes. So yeah, occasionally with the glasses off, I know I sound like a complete quack saying this, but I know y'all don't.
Not to me.
Think so.
You sound completely normal to me. If that helps.
Well, I've listened to Huberman enough to learned a lot of things that I didn't learn in optometry school. But yeah, I don't wear sunglasses unless it's the sun's straight up overhead and it's really bright and I'm sensitive. But morning sun without glasses and an evening sun, y'all know the story there. And I don't have the blue blockers though, and that's shame on me. I'm an eye doctor. But blue light emits from all these screens and on the bulbs, and so if you're getting blue light after the sun went down, your brain is not gearing up for sleep properly. So either keep your lights low or wear those crazy. Do y'all wear the crazy looking glasses or no?
No, I don't. But I do, like, and that's ever since I had children. That's been the thing. Like, the lights are on during the day, but at nighttime we turn everything off. So I am still watching a screen. So maybe that's still, but I haven't had an issue. But
yeah, you reduce the volume of light.
Yeah, it's darker. Like, we know it's dark.
Oh, I want to tell one other story. I don't have a sweet potato story, but my sister's 60th birthday, and I was maybe 5 years into this, and I just said, and I still wanted some of these foods. That's interesting, because now I don't even want to eat that stuff. But chocolate cake, potatoes, everything from top to bottom. Yeah, next day, boom. There was the depression. It was and again, I studied myself too much. I'm like, this is so interesting. I know this is depression. And that was wild, but I stopped it after one day, and a couple of days later, I was fine. So, yeah, your sweet potato story is amazing.
Yeah, well, it was certainly very eye-opening because before that's how my world was. I'd be like, oh, it's a holiday, I'm fine. And now I'm like, nope, it's not fine. It's not. It's just not something that I can do. So sometimes I do say that having a mental illness is kind of a blessing because it keeps me honest now that I know how to do this. Like, other people that don't have such an immediate response, they can cheat on their diet.
Children with epilepsy, Charlie was able to go off the diet and not have but I haven't seen this with adults with mental illness. And it hasn't. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to ever find out for myself.
Actually, I think Donica. Do you know Donica?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I believe that she can at least be a little more relaxed with it. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure she's still low carb, but I think she can be a little more relaxed with it.
I do remember that now.
Yeah. So, well, we've run into our hour. I knew we would just. Talk, it'd be no problem whatsoever. So before we go, we do a couple things. Well, first of all, before we go, I want to ask where people can find you.
Yeah, well, I have some information on Metabolic Mind. I see your Think Smart back there. So there's some of my thoughts there. X is where I spend a lot of time, and that's about it, really. It's this Dr. Eric, ERIC Rodgers, RODGERS. And I'm very active there, too active. But hope maybe once I retire from optometry, I'd get more involved in this space.
Well, I think you're very involved as it is, even managing, a profession. So, yeah, we appreciate. I mean, again, I find it fascinating that you were just right there when it was kind of all happening. So, I mean, you're definitely part of the conversation and a great part of the conversation. So, honored to share some story with you in a documentary.
They're all very fun. I can't wait for people to see it. It's gonna be powerful.
Yeah, I agree. I'm hoping to go to another showing.
Yeah, I don't know where they're going. I don't think we know where they're going to be, but
no, not yet. But what is it? Cholesterol code movie.com.
Yeah.
So
cholesterol.
I want to make sure. That's where you got anybody who's interested. You can go there
and find out where the screenings will be.
Yeah. I might just be at one of them too, because I mean, how often do you get to see yourself on the big screen?
I was jet lagged. Well, I have an issue with myself on the screen, but it was that huge screen that they went right in. It's like, oh, the wrinkles were pretty wild, and I'm definitely the oldest person in the movie. I'm pretty sure, which is fine.
You're representing. That's exactly. All. It's important.
They didn't have to zoom in that much.
Yeah. Did you have to? Just talk to Tom and just be like, "Hey, I need you to back off."
Yeah, blur that out a little bit.
So, the way we end all of our episodes is with the same question. We ask our guests the same question at the end of each show. So the question is, if you could give one piece of advice to someone who is just embarking on their low carb journey, what would it be?
Every day is a new day to do better. And don't get discouraged by a day where you didn't do what you wanted to do. That's fine. That day's over. It's now behind you. You got another day coming. Now do it. And if you do enough correct things long enough, it becomes habit. So.
Love it. I think that may be the first time somebody said that answer too. So kudos to you for having a different view.
Yep.
And a very good view. I agree with you. Every day is a good day for day one. I say that quite frequently.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, every day is day one for the rest of your life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And all we can do every day is strive to be a better person than we were the day before.
Yep.
And that's not just food. That's everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Eric. Natalie, do you have...
Yeah, I would just like to mention to our audience, if you've enjoyed today's episode, which, I mean, how could you not? Share it with your friends on social media and spread the word. It's the best way to support us, and we really want to keep this conversation going. It's so important to the community. Thanks for viewing us.
Yes, and Eric, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad that we finally got our schedules together to do it, because it was an amazing conversation. And yeah, I would love to have you come back on. Maybe you can maybe after you do some of those tests on yourself, get those results, and then you can talk about some of this eye stuff that we didn't even dive into. But I know a lot of people are curious about that. So we'll be in touch about a future visit with some deeper information on those topics. So on behalf of Scott, who's not with us, and Natalie, Eric, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.